In Hollywood, love isn't always what it seems. Some wedding bells rang not for romance, but for survival. In an industry where being yourself could cost you everything, marriage became a mask. These aren't just celebrity unions. They're carefully crafted cover stories, designed to protect the truth no one was allowed to say out loud. This is our countdown of 8 Hollywood marriages that weren't about love, but about hiding who they truly were. From the outside, Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis had it all. She was Hollywood's golden girl, the dazzling star of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. He was a heartthrob with a killer smile, fresh off hits like Some Like It Hot. Together they seemed like the perfect power couple of the 1950s. But underneath the carefully polished image, there were whispers. Not of scandal, but of something even more dangerous in that era: truth. Throughout his career, Tony Curtis was dogged by rumors about his sexuality. He was flamboyant, charismatic, and often more comfortable in the company of other men. Behind the scenes, Hollywood insiders speculated about his close friendships and his effeminate mannerisms. But the public could not know. Studios could not risk losing their matinee idol. So a solution was crafted: marry America's sweetheart. Janet Leigh was not just a co-star, she became his shield. Whether she knew the full extent of the deception or simply played along. Their 11-year marriage offered exactly what Tony needed: legitimacy. They posed for family photos, gave interviews about love and children, and gave the world a fantasy it could believe in. Meanwhile, the real Tony remained hidden in the margins, performing off-screen in a role far more exhausting than any movie character. Their marriage eventually crumbled in 1962, but its purpose had long since been served. Tony Curtis had successfully weathered the most dangerous decade of his life, protected not by honesty, but by illusion. And Janet? She was praised for being the ideal wife, even if the love she was asked to perform may never have truly existed. If Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis offered the illusion of love, Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor delivered a masterclass in mutual concealment. Their 1939 marriage looked like a dream pairing: 2 Hollywood stars, equally adored by audiences, brought together under a golden spotlight. But beneath the perfect image lay a strategic decision to protect reputations and identities. Barbara Stanwyck was never the typical starlet. She was tough, reserved, and intensely private. While she never publicly identified as queer, rumors about her sexuality followed her throughout her career. Close friendships with women, emotional intimacy, and her reluctance to remarry after her divorce from Taylor only fueled speculation. In a time when female independence was already suspicious, her refusal to play the part of the traditionally feminine woman made her an easy target for gossip and danger. Robert Taylor, on the other hand, was marketed as the ideal leading man. His good looks and quiet charm made him a studio favorite. But whispers about his preferences off-screen circulated quietly among insiders. Being paired with Stanwyck did more than boost his image, it offered a shield against suspicion. Together, they created a narrative the studios could sell: a strong, silent husband and his elegant, no-nonsense wife. But behind the closed doors of their Beverly Hills home, things were different. They led largely separate lives, often working on opposite coasts or staying apart for weeks at a time. Their connection, though respectful, was described by friends as distant. There were no scandals, but also no warmth. Their union was not built on intimacy, it was built on strategy. When they divorced in 1951, no explosive details emerged, just a quiet ending to a long, calculated performance. In a world that demanded conformity, Barbara and Robert gave Hollywood what it wanted, while keeping who they really were, locked safely behind the curtain. If Hollywood had a Mount Rushmore of charm, Cary Grant's face would be carved right into it, perfect jawline and all. He was suave, witty, impeccably dressed, and practically invented the phrase "leading man." But while audiences swooned over his every move, those close to the industry often whispered a different story. Cary, they said, wasn't just acting on screen, he was acting off it too. Enter Virginia Cherrill. a lovely actress best known for starring in Charlie Chaplin's City Lights. In 1934, she and Grant married in what seemed like a whirlwind romance. The press adored it, two glamorous stars freshly in love. But behind the scenes, the honeymoon did not last. In fact, it barely began. The marriage dissolved in under a year, and according to Virginia, Cary could be moody, controlling, and emotionally distant. But others suspected the problem wasn't chemistry, it was concealment. By that time, Cary Grant had already lived with fellow actor Randolph Scott in a shared beach house for several years. The two bachelors were photographed lounging in matching outfits, sunbathing, cooking together, and looking like the happiest domestic couple west of the Pacific. Fans were told it was just a bromance. Hollywood called it great publicity. But those photos, let's just say, they aged better than any of Cary's marriages. The union with Virginia was short, but it served its purpose. It gave Cary Grant a heterosexual storyline the studios could sell. And let's be honest, nothing silences gay rumors in the 1930s quite like a quick wedding and a quicker divorce. Cary went on to marry 4 more women, none of which lasted. He never officially came out, and until the end of his life, he insisted his private life was nobody's business. Fair enough. But when your roommate outlasts all your wives, the audience tends to read between the lines. And while Cary might have been Hollywood's smoothest talker, the next couple on our list had an even tighter script, one written by a man who knew all too well how to shape a star and how to hide the truth. Rock Hudson and Phyllis Gates. If Hollywood needed a poster boy for the perfect man, Rock Hudson fit the bill. Tall, handsome, with a deep voice and movie star charm. He was the leading man every woman dreamed of, and the studios worked hard to keep it that way. But Rock had a secret, one that did not fit the image they built for him. So when rumors about his sexuality started to surface, the solution came in the form of a wedding ring. In 1955, Rock married Phyllis Gates, the secretary of his agent, Henry Willson. The timing was no coincidence. Whispers were growing louder, and a quick marriage to a woman was the perfect fix. The press praised the union, fans sighed in relief, and the industry let out a collective exhale. Rock Hudson, gay? Please, he had a wife now. But the truth did not vanish with the ceremony. Behind the scenes, Rock lived a very different life. He had close relationships with men that kept private company and only played the part of husband in front of cameras. Whether Phyllis knew the full truth is still debated. In her memoir, she claimed she was unaware. Others close to them were not so sure. Either way, their marriage served one purpose: protect the illusion. The marriage lasted just 3 years. No children, no messy scandal, just a quiet end to a very public arrangement. Rock went back to bachelor life. Phyllis faded from the headlines. And the mask stayed on for decades. It was not until 1985, when Rock was diagnosed with AIDS, that the world finally saw the man behind the legend. In his final years, he became the accidental face of a crisis and the most famous closeted man in Hollywood history. His story was a tragedy, but it was also a truth, long denied. And while Rock played the hero on screen, off-screen he was forced to live like a ghost in his own story. Rudolph Valentino and Jean Acker. If Rock Hudson represented the golden age of closeted masculinity, then Rudolph Valentino was its silent era prototype. Long before Hollywood had tabloids or Twitter, it had Valentino, the original Latin lover. Women fainted at his movies, men tried to imitate him. But behind the exotic charm and smoldering stares was a man caught in the first true media frenzy over identity and image. In 1919, Valentino married actress Jean Acker, a union that made headlines, but not for the reasons you might expect. Just hours after the wedding, Jean locked him out of their hotel room on their wedding night. Their marriage was never consummated, and they separated within weeks. The gossip mills exploded. What kind of red-blooded Hollywood heartthrob could not get past the bedroom door? Jean Acker was known to have relationships with women. Valentino was rumored to have had affairs with men. In hindsight, their marriage reads less like romance and more like a mutual disguise. At a time when even the whisper of queerness could destroy a career, Their rushed wedding seemed like a calculated effort to silence suspicion. And for a while, it worked. But the truth lingered, just beneath the surface. Tabloids mocked Valentino's effeminate demeanor, calling him a pink powder puff. He fought back publicly, once even challenging a journalist to a boxing match. But the more he pushed, the more the questions came. His second marriage to set designer Natasha Rambova also raised eyebrows and was later annulled due to legal complications. Again, critics wondered, was Valentino in love or just playing the part? He died young, at just 31. But the mystery survived him. Thousands mourned the icon. Few understood the man. Today, Valentino is remembered for his beauty, his talent, and the roles he played off-screen to survive a system that never allowed him to live freely. Because in Hollywood, the show must go on, even if the truth has to wait in the wings. Anthony Perkins and Barry Berenson. Anthony Perkins terrified a generation as Norman Bates in Psycho, a role so chilling it defined his career. But off-screen, the true horror he faced was not a killer with a knife. It was a culture that told him loving another man could kill everything he had built. For years, Perkins lived a double life. In private, he had romantic relationships with men, including a long-rumored affair with fellow actor Tab Hunter. In public, he was the quiet, charming star with a mysterious aura. That mystery was not by accident, it was strategy. Hollywood in the 1960s and 1970s was no place for a gay leading man. The price for being honest was unemployment. So, in 1973, Perkins married photographer and actress Barry Berenson. The match surprised many. Barry was creative, eccentric, and well-connected. She was also reportedly aware of Anthony's past and accepted it. Their marriage was not about denial, but about survival. In a world that demanded conformity, they crafted a narrative that offered protection. Husband, wife, 2 sons, elegant press photos, and a suburban home. But make no mistake, this was no fairy tale. Perkins continued to wrestle with his identity, reportedly seeking conversion therapy and carrying a lifelong weight of guilt and secrecy. Friends noted a lingering sadness in him, a kind of quiet grief for the life he could not fully live. Yet Barry remained by his side, until his death in 1992 from AIDS-related illness. Another truth the industry tried to bury. Their marriage was not a lie, it was a compromise. Perhaps even a friendship rooted in empathy. But like so many Lavender unions before it, it was born out of fear, not freedom. And while Anthony kept his secrets close, the next name on our list made a career out of keeping everyone's secrets, while hiding his own the whole time. Henry Willson and his beautiful boys. If there was ever a man who knew how to straighten up a gay actor's public image, it was Henry Willson. As one of the most powerful talent agents in Hollywood's golden age, he did not just discover stars, he manufactured them. But while he built careers with chiseled jaws and fake romances, Henry was also hiding something, himself. Henry Willson was gay. That, in itself, was risky in 1950s Hollywood. But instead of hiding in the shadows, he became the king of illusion. He created leading men like Hudson, Tab Hunter, Troy Donahue, renaming them, reshaping them, and repackaging them as every girl's dream. Behind every photo shoot of a shirtless hunk at a poolside was Henry, smiling proudly, knowing full well that his client's biggest acting job was not on screen, it was pretending to be straight. He arranged fake dates, studio-approved girlfriends, and just friends photo ops. When the press got too nosy, Henry had a trick for that too. Plan a juicier scandal elsewhere. It was smoke and mirrors, and Henry was the magician. But being the gatekeeper did not mean he was immune. His own queerness was an open secret. And as Hollywood's tastes changed, so did his power. By the 1970s, the stars he made had either outgrown him or distanced themselves from the man who knew too much. He died in 1978, broke and nearly forgotten, in a small apartment far removed from the mansions his clients bought with his help. Henry Willson did not just orchestrate Lavender marriages, he invented the blueprint. He was the man behind the lie. And in doing so, he gave us some of the most iconic names in Hollywood, while sacrificing any chance to live openly as one himself. But if Henry taught his clients how to fake it, the final name on our list, well, he made faking it a global phenomenon. Tom Cruise and the mystery of the $1 million smile. When you think of Tom Cruise, you think of high-octane stunts, perfectly timed smiles, and movies that make you want to jump off a plane without a parachute. What you do not think about: his personal life. And that, my friends, is by design. Tom Cruise has been one of Hollywood's most bankable stars for decades, and not just because of his high-flying roles in movies like Top Gun or Mission Impossible. No. Tom's real superpower has always been his ability to dodge questions about his sexuality. It is like he has an invisible cloak, one that is more effective than any action movie prop. Cruise's marriages, all three of them, have been as high profile as his films. He married actress Mimi Rogers in 1987, cue a lot of "who is she" comments, then went on to marry Nicole Kidman in a lavish ceremony in 1990. To the public, these were the love stories of the decade, but behind the scenes, there were always whispers. The marriage to Kidman was perfect, in some ways. Two A-list stars, working together raising adopted children. But was it really? Nicole later said their marriage was a bizarre experience, and rumors circulated that the whole thing was more studio-mandated than love-based. After his divorce from Nicole, Cruise's next marriage was to actress Katie Holmes. By now, the media had caught on. There was always something too perfect about his relationships. Cue the speculation about his sexuality, made all the more tantalizing by his deep connection to the Church of Scientology. The church has famously been rumored to enforce strict rules about relationships, and those who have left the organization claim it is a tool to control stars like Cruise, making them fit the mold. Tom Cruise has spent decades keeping his personal life private and his true self even more so. He has dodged questions, made awkward statements, and had enough public divorces to start a romantic comedy franchise. But here is the thing: despite all the mystery, Tom Cruise is still an icon, still a star, and still a man who knows how to play the game of Hollywood, because in his case, the truth is just another role he is not ready to play. And that, my friends, is the ultimate Hollywood illusion. Even when the truth is right there, all you have to do is smile, and the world buys it. The lights were bright, the smiles were rehearsed, but behind the camera, these stars lived in silence, bound not by love, but by fear. In a world that punished truth, these marriages offered protection, but at the cost of something far greater: freedom. If this story moved you, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because every hidden truth deserves to be heard.